Hi guys, my name is Matt. I'm one of the trainers for CirclePOS. I've also been a bookseller for the last 15 years, managing multiple locations. I've also gone through the migration process in multiple stores. In this series of videos, I've been working through our training setup. In this training module, Training 3, we'll be going through customer setup, including business and account holders, special order, order hold, reserve stock, selling special orders, gift cards, and movers. The first thing we'll be looking at is customer setup. There's a few different ways that we can get customer information into our database. The one we'll be focusing on right now is manual customer setup. This will also include business account setup. So all customer management is done within the back office under our customers tab. We're going to go to the second option and set up a brand new customer. Customer setup is almost identical to staff setup. So our required fields are first and last name. The username will autofill. Usually we would not set a password for a customer. We would allow them to do that themselves. We can set customers with a permanent discount if we choose, but keep in mind that that's going to be a blanket discount across all products within the store. Normally we would not set a credit limit for run-of-the-mill customers coming into the store. That's something that's usually used for account or business customers. We may have some notes there that we wish to add. Perhaps the customer gets a certain discount on items, or it is a family member or something like that that you wish your staff to know. As soon as they look the customer up, it'll be displayed within the POS. And by default, loyalty is enabled. Payment terms, usually not something that we worry too much about with our run-of-the-mill customer, as we're usually not invoicing them for goods. The contact details are store specific to you. It really comes down to how much information you require from the customer. At a bare minimum, I would think a mobile phone number. If you are planning on contacting the customer, perhaps let them know that a product has come in. And an email address isn't a bad idea either if you're planning on doing newsletters and things like that. The rest of the information, shipping address, notes, are only required if you feel a need to get that sort of information from a run-of-the-mill customer. Most of the time it is simply first, last name, and some sort of contact, phone number or an email address. Once you've entered in the required information, we simply press the create button. So I'll go through the process right now of setting up a brand new customer in our database. As you can see, the username has auto-filled. I'm going to leave the password fields blank. I'm not going to give any credit limit or discount to this particular customer, but I will put a note in for the POS so we can see that displayed. I'm going to leave loyalty enabled, and I will add an email address and a phone number. When we've entered the required information, all we need to do is press create. And that customer has now been added into our database. The other type of customer we might have is a business account. These would predominantly be schools, daycare centres, anyone that you may invoice for goods at the POS. So once again, they're done under the Customers tab, but instead of Customer Setup, we're going to go to Business Setup. The main difference here is we don't have a first and last name. As you can see, we just have a trading name and a username. This is definitely a situation where you might want to apply a permanent discount. You're able to do that just by entering in the discount here into this field. You also may want to enter in a credit limit. CirclePOS will not stop an invoice going through if the customer has reached their credit limit, but it will let your staff know that they have gone over their credit limit. So that gives you the opportunity there at the POS to make the decision whether you'd like to invoice those goods or not. Payment terms may be relevant in this situation because you do plan on invoicing these customers. Usually with customers that are getting a discount, you would probably untick the loyalty tick box here. You really don't want to give them both a discount and let them accrue loyalty. My advice with business customers is to fill in as much information as you have available. Both phone numbers if available, email addresses, and shipping address. Even if you don't plan on shipping items to this customer, it's not a bad idea to have the shipping address in there as it will be displayed on the invoice. I've now entered in some account information for this school. I have their trading name, a username within the system. I've chosen to leave the password blank in this case. If the school wishes to use the website, I would probably prefer that they set up their own password. I've given them a discount and a credit limit. I have put some notes in there for the POS to display, and I've opted to untick loyalty. I don't wish them to accrue loyalty points on top of the discount that they're getting. The payment terms have been set to 14 days, but I do have the option to change that. So I'm going to change that to a 30-day account. The invoice type I wish to have with GST included. I've added in some contact details down the bottom, and I've also added a shipping address. Once I'm happy with everything on the screen, I simply need to press the create button, and that business has now been created within the system. Once we've successfully added a customer to our database, then we can go about creating a customer order or special order for them. We're going to take a look at special orders, order holds, and reserve stock. We'll also go through use cases for all of them. Now that we've successfully added the customer to our database, now we can do a special order for them. So we've found the book that the customer wants to purchase from us that we don't have in stock. So we're going to add it into our database like we would anything else, confirming that the price is correct. We're going to set a category here while we're doing this and simply press add an order. So to create a special order, we simply click the drop-down menu here on the left-hand side and choose special order. From here, we can search our customer database. There's the customer that we just added. We can simply select that customer. We have the option here to add in some reference or order notes if required. The use case for the order notes may be that the book is currently out of stock with the publisher and you'd just like to make a note of that somewhere. We have the option here to add a deposit to this order if we want to. We can also put a reference in there as well. I'm choosing to add a full deposit to this book. All I'm required to do now is choose the payment method. I'm going to choose card and then I press go. This gives me the option to print off a receipt to the customer so they have something to walk away with, and we can quickly go into our purchase order cart for the United Book Distributors and see that that book has been added to our shopping cart. With a few other special orders, we can click on the little man symbol and see some details of the customer, and we can send off that purchase order whenever we need to. We'll have a look now at the other way in which we can add a customer into our database during the special order. We simply search for the product, add an order, go to our drop down on the left hand side and choose special order. If we search for our customer in here and they don't come up, we have the option here to add them into our customer database. This is a much faster way of adding customers into our database while creating a customer order. However, we don't have the ability to change any of the terms and conditions. To do this, go into your customer database, look the customer up, and edit anything that you needed to change. When we press create and select, we can see that this customer has now been added to our database. We can choose to take a deposit if we want, or we can simply press go to create the special order. The other type of customer order we might do is what's called an order hold. So in this scenario, we've looked up a product that is in our database, but we can clearly see that we do not have any stock on hand. We do, however, have 103 copies of this book on order. If I create a traditional special order, it's going to add an extra copy into our purchase order cart, and that may not be what we want to do. What we would like to do in this situation is simply allocate one of those books that are coming in to the customer. We do this by choosing order hold. Once again, we can look up the customer, either choosing them from the list or creating a new one. We can put in notes, deposits, references if needed, and then we can simply press go. You'll notice that there is no supplier information here on the right hand side. It has not added an extra copy to our purchase order cart. This book will simply be flagged as a customer order when it arrives in. The last type of customer order we're going to take a look at is reserve stock. And this is for when you already have stock on hand of an item. I can see here that I have 4 copies on hand, but the customer would like me to reserve one for them. From the drop down on the left hand side, I simply choose reserve stock. I search for the customer. If they're in this list, I can select them. If not, I can add them in. Once again, I can do references, order notes, and a deposit amount if I'd like the customer to pay for it. If not, I simply press go. The book just simply needs to be picked off the shelf now and held for the customer. And I would recommend printing a receipt to go with that product. That way your staff have the ability to look that up when the customer comes in to collect it. By using reserve stock, we can assure that the product will not sell online while we're holding it for another person. We'll now take a look at selling special orders to customers. There's a process to do this, and it's important that we do it correctly to avoid problems later on. So when the customer comes to collect their special order, the first process we should do is look the customer up in our POS. We do that by pressing Ctrl-N or clicking on the button at the top left-hand side here next to name. From here we can search for our customer by their name or phone number. We select the customer from the list and they will be loaded into our POS. Once the customer has been loaded into POS, we can now click on the Special Orders button. This will list all available special orders for that customer. If there are multiple special orders, it's best to look at the slip that is with the special order. We choose the special order that we're going to sell and we press OK. This has now automatically loaded the book into the POS. We can see the prices and we can see that there has not been a deposit paid on this particular item. From here, it becomes a normal transaction. We simply choose the payment method and finalize the sale. Now we'll take a look at gift cards, creating and redeeming them at the POS. There's a couple of ways in CirclePOS that you can create gift cards. In this video, we'll be focusing on the more common way of doing it through the POS. The easiest way to generate a gift card is through the POS. We press Generate New Card. We enter in the quantity of cards that we want and the amount that we're after. CirclePOS will generate a tracked voucher number and it will also generate a PIN number to go along with the card. One of the options here would be to have card stock made up and to simply write those numbers down onto the card to hand over to the customer as a gift card. From here, it becomes a normal transaction. You would simply choose payment type and finalize the sale. To redeem gift cards, when they come across your counter, we simply scan items as we normally would and choose gift card as the payment type. It will prompt us to enter in the gift card number. It will display us the balance of the card and we can see here that $29.98 has been tendered for the gift card amount. It also shows us the balance remaining on the card. From here, it's a normal transaction. We simply finalize and transaction is complete. The movers system is quite unique to CirclePOS. When used correctly, it'll assure that you don't run out of products that you need to have in stock, making sure that your customers are always happy. Like all inventory management, movers is done from the back office. We go to our movers tab. We can change the date range in which we're interested in looking at and simply press search. This will show us everything that we have sold within the dates that we are looking at. From here, we can make a decision whether we would like to add these items to our shopping carts. We're met with the familiar information that we see elsewhere in Circle, info about the products, title, categories. We can also see our sales history here. 3 weeks, 2 weeks, last 7 days, and all-time sales. We also have a column here that shows us how many we sold within this time frame. We can also see our stock on hand. To get more detailed sales history, we can press on the plus sign, and now it's up to us to make a decision on how many of these items, if any, we would like to order. We can simply go through the list and add as many copies that we want to place into our shopping carts as necessary. This one here with the little man symbol represents that it was sold as a customer order. This may affect whether you actually want to stock it back in your store or not. At the end of this process, you have the option to either order from here or order and log time. Order will not keep track of the time frame which you have done this in. However, if you do order and log time, we can go back in later and not look at old data. And that's the one I prefer to use. When I press order and log time, it simply loads these into a purchase order screen. I have the option here to change the quantity of these items if I like. And if I'm happy with what I see, I can simply press go. These books will be added to the appropriate carts. When I go back into movers, because I use the order and log time button, it will start from the time that I finished. We can always change these dates and get this report up again. You'll now be able to handle customer management, advanced POS functions, and reordering of inventory. As always, if there are any further questions, you can always book a one-on-one training session with one of our trainers. The links will be posted below.